Ben was an ordinary 12-year-old who had been dreaming of getting an iPhone for months. When his parents finally handed him the sleek, new phone for his birthday, he couldn't contain his excitement. It was everything he wanted: crystal clear camera, fast games, and the latest apps. All his friends had one, and now he could finally fit in. At first, everything was normal. Ben loved playing games, sending messages, and taking silly photos. The iPhone became an extension of his hand. It wasn't just a device, it was his best friend. But one night, while watching videos, the phone suddenly powered off. Ben glanced at the battery, 100%. Confused, he pressed the power button and the phone turned back on. That's when he first noticed it. The lock screen had changed. Instead of his usual picture, there was an image of a foggy forest. Strange. He didn't remember setting that as his wallpaper. He quickly changed it back and thought nothing more of it. But the forest wasn't done with him yet. The next night, Ben was lying in bed, scrolling through social media when he heard it, a soft whisper. "Ben?" He froze. His room was completely quiet, aside from the low hum of his phone. Ben looked around, confused. Was it his imagination? Again, the whisper, louder this time. "Ben, come." He stared at the phone, his heart pounding. Was the voice coming from the iPhone? He quickly shut it off, convinced he was just tired and hearing things. But sleep didn't come easily that night. The soft voice echoed in his head until he drifted off into a restless sleep. The following day at school, things only got stranger. During lunch, Ben was showing his friend, Jamie, a funny meme when the phone screen flickered. The image of the meme distorted into something unrecognizable, blurry shapes and shadows. For a split second, the screen went black and then a pale face appeared. Dark eyes stared through the phone as if someone was trapped inside, watching him. "What was that?" Jamie asked, his voice uneasy. But before Ben could respond, the screen went back to normal. It was just a meme again. Ben laughed nervously. "Just a glitch," he said, trying to convince himself. But deep down he knew it wasn't. That night, Ben lay in bed staring at his iPhone. The whispers had stopped, but a sense of dread washed over him every time he held the phone. He decided to delete some apps, thinking maybe that would fix whatever was wrong. But as he opened the camera roll, his heart sank. There were dozens of photos he didn't remember taking, photos of him lying in bed, asleep. His blood ran cold. In each picture there was something else, a shadowy figure standing beside him. It wasn't clear at first, just a dark blur, but as he scrolled through, the figure became sharper. By the last photo, it was unmistakable. A tall, faceless figure with long fingers and a pale complexion. Ben's breath hitched. He threw the phone across the room, his pulse racing. The figure in the photos, it had been standing next to his bed while he slept. Desperate for answers, Ben spent the next day trying to figure out where his phone had come from. He asked his parents where they had bought it. His mom told him it was a refurbished phone from an online seller. Something about the way she said it made his stomach churn. He searched online for strange iPhone glitches, but most of the results were about software bugs and random crashes. But then one article caught his eye: The Girl Who Disappeared, The Curse of the Haunted iPhone. His hands trembled as he clicked the link. The article detailed the disappearance of a girl named Sarah, who had been given an iPhone for her 13th birthday, just like Ben. According to the story, Sarah had told her friends about strange things happening with her phone. Whispers, creepy images, and photos she hadn't taken. No one believed her. A week later, Sarah disappeared without a trace. The last thing anyone saw was her iPhone lying on her bed with a picture of her staring into the camera, terror in her eyes. Ben's heart pounded in his chest. Could this be Sarah's phone? Was he next? That night, Ben decided to keep his phone turned off. He couldn't bear to look at it anymore. But in the middle of the night, his phone turned on by itself. The screen glowed in the dark and a strange number flashed on the screen. It wasn't a typical phone number, just random symbols and characters. His hand shook as he picked up the phone. He shouldn't answer it. But something, a pull stronger than anything he had ever felt, made him swipe the green button. A voice crackled on the other end, barely audible at first. "Ben, it's your turn now." The voice was soft, almost soothing, but filled with malice. Before Ben could hang up, the voice continued, "Come to the woods. I'm waiting." The phone went silent. Ben's room felt colder than usual, and a dark shadow seemed to move in the corner of his eye. He turned to see nothing. But the dread remained. The next morning, Ben found a new app on his phone. He hadn't downloaded it and it didn't have a name, just a black icon with a single white dot in the center. Against his better judgment, he tapped on it. The screen flickered and suddenly a video began to play. It was a recording of him from just the night before as he slept in his bed. The camera was zoomed in on his face, and then slowly panned to the corner of his room, where the dark shadow had been. In the video, the shadow moved. It slowly transformed into the figure from the photos, the faceless, pale figure. It reached out, its long fingers brushing Ben's shoulder as he slept. Ben felt sick to his stomach. He had to get rid of the phone. But how? Ben tried everything, resetting the phone, deleting the strange app, even smashing it with a hammer. But no matter what he did, the phone always repaired itself. It was like the phone was alive, determined to stay with him. He even tried throwing it away, but the next morning, it was back on his nightstand, fully charged and waiting. In a last-ditch effort, Ben decided to meet the figure. Maybe if he went to the woods like the voice on the phone had said, he could end the nightmare. He didn't tell anyone where he was going. He simply walked out into the dark, cold night, the iPhone clutched tightly in his hand. As he reached the edge of the woods, the phone buzzed. A new message appeared on the screen: "You're close. Come find me." Ben's heart raced as he stepped into the forest. The trees towered over him, their branches like claws reaching for the sky. He followed the path, the phone guiding him deeper into the darkness. Suddenly, the screen lit up with a bright light. Ben looked down, and there, on the screen, was a live feed of himself walking through the woods. But behind him, something was following. He spun around, but there was nothing there. Yet on the screen, the pale figure was getting closer. Ben ran. His feet pounded the forest floor as he sprinted through the trees, his breath coming in short, panicked gasps. But no matter how fast he ran, the figure on the screen got closer and closer. Then the phone rang again. This time he didn't hesitate. He answered, and the voice on the other end said, "You can't run, Ben. You belong to me now." The figure was right behind him. He could feel its cold breath on the back of his neck. Ben screamed and everything went black. The next morning, his parents found his iPhone lying in the woods, but Ben was gone. Just like Sarah, he had vanished without a trace. But the phone remained. And now it was waiting for its next owner. Now imagine this: as you are listening to this story, your phone buzzes. You look down to see a new message: "I see you." Would you answer it? Let us know in the comment section below.